On the Viktor Gyökeres thing, I pulled up his FB ref report just for shits and giggles, really. And this is worth pointing out that this is him in the next 14 best competitions and not the best 5. So, like, it is skewed by, if you put him in another one, this wouldn't look the same. But, Chris, in terms of his scouting report...
Yeah, it's pretty heavy.
It looks like a mistake. It's like non-penalty goals, 99th percentile. Non-penalty XG, 99. Shots total, assists is 89, bit low. Expected... assisted goals 96th percentile, combined 99, shot creating actions 99th, progressive carries 99th, successful takeouts 98th, touches in the attacking penalty 99%, progressive positive 90. It doesn't do any defensive work as it turns out, but
it would look almost exactly the same in the top 5 leagues.
Reckon.
Because he scored more goals than anybody.
Yeah.
So he'd be in all of those same categories in exactly the same way. The question mark isn't, is he a good striker? It's will he fit in England? Mm-hmm. And is he too old? And I still think he'll work. I do. And I think when you can play a centre midfielder there and who can score 5-6 goals towards the end of the season, when you put a centre forward there, that's going to do numbers for Arsenal.
We did our striker predictions 2 weeks ago. All of you in the room went Arsenal for this one. So.
Oh no, you didn't.
All of you.
Oh, to be fair.
It was an important word that I dropped in there. Come on. I didn't think he'd end up at Manchester United, but we'll come on to Man United in a little bit because it's quite hilarious where they're at the minute. Yeah, fine. Absolutely fine. Is there a little sense in this one, Chris, that I put him plus Odegaard equals KDB and Haaland, and I don't mean necessarily to that level, but you get a pure centre forward in there, you just task Odegaard with supplying ammunition for him.
I think so, but then Odegaard's not coming off the best season that he's had either, has he? So, for me, I think it will work, but it's one of those signings where if it's not working in the first 6 weeks, there are going to be real question marks asked about it, and it's make or break in those first few weeks. For me, it either goes one way or the other. It's probably not going to go somewhere in the middle.
I think he's going to score a ton of goals in the first month of the season. I think this reminds me of Lukaku back to Chelsea, and everyone went, this is what they need. They just need the centre forward. Oh, they've got the centre forward look. And then because he'll do the thing where the Championship strikers always do. The ones who piss the Championship and come up, and they come up hot. And they keep scoring goals for a bit, and then they hit the wall for the first time, and then they've got to figure out how they continue to do it, and they often never recover. I don't think it would be maybe quite as dramatic as that. But I mean, if it goes your way, I don't think he will. I don't think he will score goals. But I still think there's a world where he probably scores a ton, but doesn't necessarily end up the 30-goal a season striker.
Yeah, that's Premier League defenders, managers, analysts figuring him out a little bit, isn't it? Having a proper look at it. And they'll have a lot of information on him from his time in Portugal, of course, probably some from the Championship. I'm not at all convinced by this. I've said this for a few weeks running now. I think it was the most obvious striker for Arsenal to go and get because he was there. He was basically waiting by the exit door of his bags packed in Portugal, wasn't he? He was completely ready to go. So it makes sense for them to go and do it, and finally looks like they will be doing. But I think the fact that he is 27, and I know that's not, particularly old, and this is the first time he's really going to make the step into the big leagues, if you like. Portugal is Portugal. His record in Portugal is a joke. Like he has
done it in the Champions League as well. It is worth mentioning his Champions League record's excellent as well.
To what ends? To the semi-finals, to the finals, like to the elite, the best of the best? No. A bit of a flat track bully maybe in the group stages, perhaps. He scored goals, absolutely, he has done, yeah. And again, the Portuguese record is an absolute farce, like it really is. But do you get to 27 and the Championship and Premier League clubs have a look at you and not really fancy it at that point and don't take the punt on you? I'm not sure if you are elite level. You know what I mean? The Brighton let you leave at that point. I'm not sure they do.
See, I we've had this conversation back and forth. I think it's a good signing for Arsenal, I really do. I think they, as something to sort of riff off what Steve said, I don't think they're in the lookout for a 22-year-old who's going to be good in 3 years.
No, I
think they need to sign someone who gives them the best chance of scoring goals, and who better than the fella who scored more goals than anybody else, albeit at a different level. That's the difficulty, isn't it, of where you
need the plug and play ready to go.
Exactly.
I'm just not sure
he is that guy. So a 27-year-old in that regard is better for them.
He's the best option they could have got.
I think so.
He's the best
for now. Right now. Maybe not long term. Maybe not for 4 years' time. But for right now, what they need to achieve, which is turning a second into a first, I think he gives them the best chance.
Can I suggest Osimhen would be better?
That's exactly what I was going to point out. Yeah,
maybe. I think the 1A, 1B. The thing what Gyökeres has got, right? He runs all day. Like this, he isn't just this like flat track bully. I get it. He scored loads of goals in Portugal, but like his style of play should mirror. It's worth mentioning, like say, for everyone who scored tons of goals in poorer leagues, you can get an Erling Haaland, you can get a Darwin Núñez. Like both, you can get both. It doesn't always necessarily mean it's going to work out, but I think if you're Arsenal looking at everything that you've got available to you, you're thinking, we just need a lad who scores 10 more goals than we got last year. He's the man.
He might not get 30, but if he gets 20...
If he scores 20 Premier League...
What does he take away from what Arsenal are doing?
I don't think he's nothing. No, I don't know. Because he's good at all that. That's what he's really good at.
To the level that, like, I actually quite like Kai Havertz.
I think Kai Havertz is good
to that level. Is he as good as...
I think so.
He works hard, mate. He runs all day.
And Saka doesn't want to be the main man. He's not the type of player who's going to... He thrives on being the main man. So you're forcing Saka into almost doing something that he doesn't want to do. He wants someone to pass to. He wants someone... And I think Gyökeres will be like that.
I'm with you. I think I'm probably in the middle. I'm not convinced like it's a surefire, nailed on, he's going to work out thing. But there was no one... I said Ollie Watkins was the closest they could have got, and they turned that down. They didn't want to do that. So, and maybe that wasn't age thing. That's another 2 years. Like Gyökeres, by all accounts, he's getting a 5-year deal. So they're giving he's going to be paid till he's 32. But Mikel Arteta and Arsenal are probably thinking, if I don't win the league in the next 2 years, that's kind of someone else's problem anyway. That's because they have to win.
It's a Hail Mary move, isn't it?
But
that's the difference. That's why it's not Sesko, I think. Yeah. Because I think Sesko is a little bit of a project.
Exactly.
100%.
You say, but Hail Mary sometimes is like on a wing and a play. He's better than that.
Yeah. This
isn't just like putting all your eggs in Mikel Merino up front. That's a Hail Mary. This is a good signing for Arsenal. I don't know if he's an elite level, world class striker, but when you're surveying the market, because we're in the same boat, we want a striker and we're looking around, it's Alex Isak. And if it's not going to be him, it's like, I'm not quite sure. Now, this is what
we were saying a few weeks ago, is that it's like Liverpool when you buy Van Dijk. We need a centre-half, but Liverpool don't. Liverpool need an elite centre-half, and that is the slight question mark over him.
His numbers are elite, though, aren't he?
But this is the problem. They're not. They are, but they're not. You've got to put context around the numbers that he's getting. And
all these clubs have a figure that means they expect them to do this in this league. Yeah, all of the clubs do that. So I think they know that he's not going to go and score 45 goals this season. I think if Arsenal expected that, Arsenal fans might expect that, but I don't think Arsenal expect that. The interesting point I think you both made there was Osimhen. That could have well been a better answer for them, but they decided themselves, along with a lot of clubs, have decided that Osimhen isn't the guy, by the way. So it's a really interesting one, and I think more clubs have turned their nose up at Osimhen than the average.
100%.
I think it's more based on character and personality than it is football, which may well be detrimental to the squad, so your overall point remains.
I think Osimhen does get a raw deal as well a little bit, just because there's this idea that he's like a bad egg. I mean, he kicked off on Napoli because they put a video out of him, which was racist. He had every right to be furious at them.
But there is something, maybe there is point as to why people aren't, because his numbers speak for themselves.
Sometimes that just like, that becomes self-fulfilling, where just there's a rumour that he's a bad egg, you don't know what it is, but like, he's doing the other one, you are right, but like, going back to Gyökeres, he's done everything he can to prove that he deserves the step.
Like he couldn't have done any more. There is no better striker playing in the 6, 7 and below best leagues in Europe. In that rest of 14 thing in the FB ref.
Do you not think the Champions League thing, Paul? Do you not think last year's what maybe finally made teams go for him? Because he's been doing this for a bit, and I think he got 6 goals in 8 games in the Champions League. He scored against City. He scored good goals. I wonder if that was the final thing that everyone needed to see. Against the elite teams, he scored goals.
And also, just sometimes you've got to remember, as much as we know that clubs delve into data, not all clubs are as up on that as we sort of think. We presume everyone is that way, and we know Arsenal are all right with it. But actually, sometimes just coming into fashion helps. So whether it's as much as Champions League goals, which will definitely be a thing, but actually being talked about and just reaching a level of notoriety that puts it on people's radar is definitely a thing as well. There are still people who work in scouting departments who just like the look of lads, and that will be enough for them. But you're right. Chris's point, right, is that it is hard, and this is one of Ian Graham's things. It is harder to judge players in those leagues. They try their best to try and weight it. But if you were going to gamble on it, the lad who scores a goal a game or more at that level is the most surefire gamble you're likely to take.
And he just looked like a Premier League footballer. Like, he's got the physique that you'd expect. Like, he's not going to get booted off the pitch.
See, this is the old school scouting thing coming through.
Well, you've got that both, haven't you? He's a big lad. So, because you mentioned the top leagues, because that's what you'd ideally want. Who is there? Sesko's doing it but it's not, his record isn't amazing.
No, he's not a goal machine.
He's fine. There's no one I think who Arsenal can go and get from any of the massive leagues. Osman's the closest, but then he did it away.
Well, Ollie Watkins is another one where he's older, but he's guaranteed Premier League
like
goals.
We were talking last week show about Man United to sign him, and the guys were going, they don't think it's a good sign. And I was like, it's good in that it'll keep Ruben Amorim in his job for a year or two because he will score your goals. I think Arsenal should have signed him in January. They turned that option down. They might have got closer to winning something. They might have won the Champions League or whatever, cup tied, I suppose. But I think Watkins, but maybe that is the thing. The tip-off point maybe is like 27. If you've got to give someone a 5-year contract, then maybe it is the age.
But to your point, you don't need to give it. If you give him a 3-year deal instead, and he is your come in, let's win the Premier League. Yeah. That Watkins, because I said last week, Watkins for United made zero sense to me, but Watkins for Arsenal makes a whole world of sense. If you are looking for that, we need to win a league and we need to win it now. He's probably more of a surefire thing.
It's a backward step for Watkins as well, by the way, to go to United one way or the other. But
that's also true.
Yeah. It's interesting though. It is really interesting.
Do you think he'll do well though, Gyökeres at Arsenal?
I think I don't, but I think the point is this: it will or it won't. They'll either win the league. It sounds stupid. They win the league or they won't.
Listen to Zootons.
The pressure is immense, by the way. Yeah. Because if you're writing what you say about he has a few quiet weeks to begin with, if he doesn't hit the ground,
he's fucked then.
You know, that all of a sudden, because Arteta's bringing him in, not this Hail Mary, but this has to work signing. The fans have got the same expectations. Wow. Like, what does that look like?
It's weird, but they had to get it. They've obviously, if they imagine the first day of the season at the Emirates, if they hadn't signed a striker. Do you remember? Gosh, this was a long time ago now. Arsene Wenger was in charge, and I think they got beat by West Ham on the first game. And the Emirates was toxic. Yes. They were booing because they hadn't done what he wanted in the transfer.
Do we know Arsenal's first game of the season?
United, didn't it?
Away, yeah. Like, I mean, that would be
a guarantee goal.
It's a guarantee. There is
former manager.
No world in which Viktor Gyökeres does not score on the opening game of the season for Arsenal. But I don't think that will define anything.
I think he'll do well. And I don't think they'll win the Premier League still.
Age-wise, actually, sorry, in terms of the experience he's already got, he's probably better equipped to deal with this pressure and expectation just because he's a bit wiser and he's been around a bit.
He's already failed as well. He's failed and come back twice. Yeah. Brighton binned him off and Coventry, he had to go to Coventry and then he's done well and
reinvent himself.
Internationally, it took him a while.
But therein goes the thing, right? We won't know till we see it, but how many times you have to fail before it's not your level. It's not where your mind are meant to be. And again, go back to the Lukaku thing. Lukaku had his pomp. Lukaku was never better than an Everton. And he was obviously a hot prospect. They're going back to, he went to Man United and he wasn't the right fit for what Manchester United needed. Jose Mourinho forever trying to turn him into a centre forward, into the next Drogba, and he was never that striker. He was never a hold-up play centre forward. He was a
running behind
and score goals.
Yeah. I mean, he did it for Inter Milan as well, though, didn't he? Won the league with them.
But to the point, he goes.
It's Italian football, then, so don't expect it.
Exactly, it's utterly shy. No, I'm well aware. That was my next point. He can go to inferior leagues and succeed like Gyökeres, but he just wasn't quite good enough by that point of his career to be what everyone thought he should be in the Prem, and I hope that is the same for Gyökeres.
When you're 27, you don't get much wiggle. You don't get. There's no
bedding in.
Yeah, there's no period where you can give him 6 months, and
not at Arsenal. Man.
Well, that's what, because A, the age, and B, they are so desperate to win. Yeah. If Arsenal aren't in contention to win something by January, it's going to be that club is teetering. And listen, they are an excellent team.
This is the summer.
But it has to be, it's now or never for Arsenal. They are really good. And I think if he doesn't win this year or get close again, I think the vast majority of Arsenal fans are still very supportive of Nketiah. And rightly so. He's taken what was a basket case club into a European semi-finalist. They've been to the last day of the season twice with a chance of winning the Premier League. But at some point, he does have to win. And this Gyökeres one to me is him saying, it's almost him admitting that. In that it's always been, Faze, Arteta, and we're doing this on him.
Is admitting it not, though, going and buying Isak?
Yeah, but he can't because he's for sale and they've got the money.
Well, not having the money thing is, I think is actually the answer there. But that's my thing on this is that this feels somewhere in between.
I think this is more admitting it in a weird way.
Yeah,
because Isak's so good. That's such an obvious. Yeah, you'd almost go, you know what? He's at a level whereby we sit and wait. Everyone wants him. Gyökeres is like, we're not sure, but we fucking got to do it anyway. Yeah. So that to me is him saying we have to win now. Yeah.
Liverpool are playing the Isak one perfectly. We'll just wait and see. We're not desperate, but if it comes, of course we're there. Arsenal are going, we cannot start pre-season without a striker because our fans are going to lose their fucking minds because they killed us all last season.
That's kind of what I'm saying. It's like it's good money. It's very good money. If it's someone at the region of 70 million quid for him, that's no chump change. But he isn't also the surefire thing, and there is no such thing, of course, etc. But it does feel somewhere in between of like he might be just good enough to get them over the line, but he's not. Again, that's as close to a guarantee as you can buy for that situation. But is this the board going, well, we're not going to fuck the club because he might not win it. He might not be good enough of a manager to help them win it next season.
It's worth mentioning though, they've got close with no striker. So if he is just like 5 or 10 goals better than Kai Havertz, and that's worth 5 more points to Arsenal, that could be the difference. So I don't think they're looking for like, you know, we were looking for Virgil van Dijk and we were pretty average at the back and we wanted to go elite. I think they're just looking for like a marginal gain from Havertz to, you know, Mikel Moreno went up front to score goals. Yeah. But can you get it just a little bit more? And so I don't think Gyökeres has to be Erling Haaland for Arsenal to win the Premier League. He probably needs to be Luis Diaz's goals from last year added on. But if Saka's Saka,
there's a knock-on impact to them buying a centre forward, and not just stylistically. It's what you do with the other lads you've got. Like, where does Kai Havertz play? Because Kai Havertz is dead good, so you're putting him into midfield, and maybe that's more goals or whatever. But where does Declan Rice play if he plays in there, and where does Zubimendi play if
Zubimendi's going to play deeper, so we know Rice is going to take up one of the ends.
But Odegaard was the main man.
Being the other one.
It's a really good squad. It's a good squad. And the Mazwecki thing adds to that if they do that as well.
If he gets 20 to 25 goals, they'll be made up with that.
Yeah,
over the course of a Premier League season.
Oh, but they bite your hand off for 20.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, and I think that's achievable.
But when you're talking about Diaz goals, that's like 12 to 15.
Yeah. Like. I think that's it. The difficulty I think Arsenal actually have isn't to do with Gyökeres, is that last season they forgot how to fucking attack. Like that's the major issue they've got, and that wasn't to do with not having a centre forward. That wasn't to do with not having a centre forward, though, was it? They just forgot how to fucking play.
Saka killed them. Yeah, Saka's still the main man. Gyökeres, it's mad that they're going to sign a 17 million pound for whatever, and Saka's. But that'd be the same for us. Mo Salah will be the main man until he's not. They need. I think their thinking is we got relatively close to winning a major competition last year. You know, they went miles away from winning a Champions League or a Premier League. If we get a full season of Saka and Gyökeres gets us 5 to 10 more goals than Kai Havertz could, that's how they'll be selling it to themselves. I think there's more. It's a very simple way of looking at it.
They just can't afford a slow start.
No. That's on the premise that everyone else stands still. And we've already seen nobody else is doing it. I just don't see it as being a big enough.
But we said this when they signed Rice. And people go, well, that'll be it, £100 million. Like the level of increments that they were looking to make in terms of an improvement, to spend £100 million on that level of improvement was mad. And maybe that's a little part of what they're doing there, I guess, is they're building a more rounded squad rather than going and getting a superstar that's going to take them on to the next thing, maybe.
The Rice thing, the weirdest thing about the whole Rice thing is they bought him for the wrong position. Yeah. And it wasn't until they realised that he was better as an ace. Anyone who watched him at West Ham knew he was more than a DM.
Zubimendi, Rice.
Like, you spent £100 million on it and playing a lad in the wrong position. That's a fucking eye-opener, like, you know what I mean? If he buys Gyökeres, is there a chance he plays him in the 10?
Wait till we see Florian Wirtz playing centre-forward for us this season.
Then it will have been in the PowerPoint presentation, I'm sure.
If you look at what Arsenal ended the season with roughly last year, so it would have been Partey, Rice, Odegaard, Martinelli, Moreno, Saka. If you compare that to now, they're going to have Zubimendi, Rice, Odegaard, Saka, Gyökeres, probably Martinelli. I think that's a drastic improvement.
It doesn't scare me now. I don't know why.
It's really good. No, it's it's going to be Arsenal. Going to be what Arsenal are. They're going to be there or thereabouts, and it's up to them. Can they make that leap?
They needed
they're a better
more
team.
lads.
They're a better team, I think, now than they were 12 months ago.
They needed more lads in the front three last season, and Raheem Sterlin, who's won like 5 Premier Leagues and God knows what else, wasn't getting on the pitch because he was there to do. It's a bit like us. You know, there were players in Liverpool's squad. We were like, give him a go, get him on the pitch. Yeah, Kaiser, Elliott, Endo. And if the manager doesn't fancy it, doesn't fancy it. If it's more lads that he fancies, then maybe. True. But look, everything. The Rafa short blanket thing, you feel like you're covering something. You always feel like you're covering yourself, but you're always pulling blankets off something. Even if you've got as much blankets as you could ever choose to have, there'll be something that you've not considered. There'll be a player who knows gets put out of joint because of the minutes. Again, it goes back to Kai Havertz. Is going to be a really, really interesting to see what they do with him.